Hello and welcome to Eternal in 5. I'm aReNGee, and today we're going to be talking about the second mechanics article spoiled for the new Eternal set, the Flame of Zolta, which is Muster. First, let's go over an explanation of the mechanic. Muster is a keyword mechanic that has so far only shown up on units in the spoilers so far. It is a trigger that happens when you play an attachment and a spell on the same turn. So similar to Empower triggers whenever you play a power, Life Force triggers whenever you gain health, Muster triggers whenever an attachment and a spell is played, doesn't matter what order. It can only trigger once per turn, which is different from Empower or Life Force, which trigger any number of times whenever the effect occurs. But like those, it can be triggered any number of times over the course of a game. So the most obvious combination with Muster is the Spellcraft mechanic. Spellcraft, of course, being being weapons or relic weapons that you can pay extra to cast a spell alongside them. That will count as casting an attachment and a spell. So those will go on, or you can just play, Permafrost and Ice Bolt in the same turn. Those are the ways to trigger the mechanic. I am personally not a fan of this one. I don't think that this is something that has a ton of depth in terms of what you can explore with it, as it's going to cover a lot of the same ground of existing cards. Just a trigger that occurs when you do a specific thing. It's got a very high deck building restriction. There's not a ton of playable Spellcraft cards, so you're only going to get maybe 8 cards out of that. And then if you wanted to play it naturally, where you play an attachment and a spell in the same turn, well, you need a unit to have Muster, so you need to have some number of those. You need to have some number of spells, some number of attachments, and then you basically split your deck, 15 cards, 15 cards, 15 cards, and that's not a good way to get any consistency. Additionally, you're spending 2 cards to get this effect, or at least 1 card to get the Muster effect, so it's really not worth digging deep into there. And you're only really going to see these cards you play if they're significantly powerful on their own, or there's a very easy way to power them. And that means either we need to get some kind of overpowered Spellcraft cards, think Sword of Unity in its heyday as an example, or, we basically need to be force-fed this mechanic if it's going to be constructed viable. In draft as well, it's basically tied exclusively to Spellcraft because there's no way you can set up a draft deck to efficiently play an attachment and a spell in the same turn. So overall, this is really something I'm not a fan of. And we only have a couple of cards, and most of them are draft cards. Here we've got our Wanderlust Quirin. What is a Quirin? I don't know. It's almost a dragon, but not quite. Maybe they just really didn't want to give us a dragon at 2. It's got little goat hooves. I don't know what this thing is. On the other hand, we have the good draft card, the Green Stretch Empath. This one's a druid. We seem to be expanding our creature types here. 5 cost 3/5 obviously takes it out of constructed, but drawing 2 cards when you muster does allow you to make it card neutral, so that's a reasonably powerful effect. And then we have the constructed plant, Nash Unrelenting. Nash, of course, now has, I believe, the most cards in of a named character, 3 tied with Jack, more than Vera certainly. So Nash, he'd become a big story character. A 3 cost 4/4, which we've talked about on previous cards, is a reasonable going rate, especially when it only costs double time to get you there. And then his muster effect turns him into a 7/7 and makes your other units invulnerable. This one is a lot more powerful than the other 2 and is fine if you just have a couple of Spellcraft cards in your deck. You just, if your deck's in the market for 3 cost 4/4 that randomly wins you the game, that's pretty good. So I think this card is pretty close to constructed playable if there is a constructed playable Spellcraft card, because the combination of those 2 could be quite effective. Otherwise, it's just a 3 cost 4/4 with no text, so you'll play that if that's what you're in the market for.